Thanks, Daniel. Not me being a pioneer, correct? It's the customers who are ready to work with us over there and be pioneer, over the years in a lot of cutting-edge technologies. But before I start, welcome everyone to Horizon. Horizon is there to network, learn, and unwind. I want to start with the first thing, network. Just want to take a couple of minutes as an icebreaker, know whom you're sitting with, correct? The connections which will help you in your professional and even personal things over there, correct? So just take a few minutes, but I'm giving an assignment. I think Magnus talked about that bell curve, correct? What AI will do. Discuss this question if you have a couple of minutes. What percentage of the AI, of the procurement work which you do today will be done by AI in 5 years from now? 5 years, whatever you're doing today, I'm not talking about new stuff. As Magnus said, you might start doing new stuff, but what you're doing today, what percentage will AI do? So your time starts now. A quick introduction to everyone, speed dating on your table. 80% can be done, but humans are creatures of habit, correct? We change slowly, correct, over there. So, but 50% would definitely be doable. And today, what I'm going to share is Zycus is not just vision, correct? What we have done in AI so far, how do we see AI really transforming procurement? And going from S2P to intake to outcomes. And I think outcomes is related with AI. Until now, software was always, fill up forms, it'll do some stuff according to a process. But AI is something which will get you to outcomes. And I want to share in terms of how it would do that. We're thankful, to getting recognition from the analyst, but we are very proud of the innovation in terms of AI. Our first patent we got in 2002 was an AI-based classification. That time it was machine learning. We have been doing AI. Merlin AI was launched, I think, in around 2018. And obviously it got turbocharged with, the ChatGPT revolution. Crisscrossing all across the globe. We have customers across the globe. We have customers which are multinational over there. So, we over the last 1 year, we started from Palma, sunny beach over there, to historic Vienna, and we're going to, Australia next. Now, AI, this is, when I look at AI, in my age, and you'll guess my age with all the transformations, but we have seen the personal computer, we have seen internet, we have seen mobile, we have seen all of it over there. But I think the transformation which AI will have is way beyond any of that. It's you have to go a century back when you had the Industrial Revolution, correct? So what Industrial Revolution did, I'd say, for your muscles, AI will do for your brain, correct, over there. So a lot of the revolution which the Industrial Revolution got, where industries change, the entire economies change, people move from agriculture to industry. A huge shift is going to happen with AI. So this is a foundational, it's like a once in a century kind of shift, and I think we are all privileged to be at this particular point when this shift is happening. Now, if you, again, taking that analogy forward, correct, the Industrial Revolution started with the steam engine, correct? The steam engine and the motor. But that was the foundation, and the LLM is the equivalent foundation. And people talk about Agentic AI. Agentic AI is 1% on top of 99% LLM. The same way you had the steam engine and the motor, but then you had the assembly line where you put everything together and there's an outcome. You're delivering a final product. So Agentic AI does something very similar, where it harnesses the raw power of LLM to deliver outcomes. So if you look at the AI revolution, correct, what happened? You had machine learning, then you have deep learning. In fact, Google kind of invented the deep learning, but then kind of slept on it, and then OpenAI came up with ChatGPT. It was just an evolution of deep learning, which is the LLM. So the LLMs are the foundation for everything, correct? So when we talk about generative AI and agentic AI, they're not different. Agentic AI is how do you use generative AI to get some work done. So people tried multiple stuff over there. We were also guilty of that. I know companies used Copilot. It delivers some value, obviously it does. We built a lot of small apps, summarize my contract, create an RFP, and so on. But that doesn't give a transformational effect over there. Now the transformational effect is going to come through agentic AI, because you cannot take new technology and fit it on the way you're doing it in the past, by just adding on certain apps. So now what is Agentic AI? I think, so before that, I just want to, share a survey. I think Magnus showed 30%. When Hackett did a survey, we saw that 65% of the organizations are, looking at Agentic AI in some way or the other within their procurement organization. And a huge budget shift is happening, I think a significant amount of budget, people are figuring out where to get it from over there, but people are investing on AI. So I think money flowing in, technology moving rapidly fast, that 50% what Damien said, I'm sure it would happen, not for all, but a good percentage of organizations. So if you consider Agentic AI is outcome driven, correct? Where agent has access to a lot of different tools over there, correct? From a personal analogy, you can think of it, okay, we want to have a happy vacation as a family, correct? What does that mean? Everybody has different preferences. You have to figure out the weather, the time, what's happening around the world, geopolitics over there, which locations are available, check which, travel sites, give you bookings and hotels, and what's the budget. So imagine if Agentic AI can do all of it, and in the end, the outcome is a happy vacation for everyone in the family. Now, similar over here, Agentic AI, the first thing is it does multiple things, correct? So like you have, for example, travel bookings, hotel bookings, booking your cars and so on. Agentic AI would also be always multi-step. The second thing is, rather than starting from the beginning, you start from the end. What is your goal? Because AI is intelligent, and I think in every 6 months, it just dramatically changes, correct? So if you look at Claude, where it is now, correct? They just overtaken, Gemini and ChatGPT significantly, correct, in the latest thing. So what you have multiple steps, you have a goal and an outcome which you give, and you obviously give the guardrails for it. And then you have agents which collaborate with each other to deliver towards that goal. So this is the vision of Agentic AI, and obviously you'll have human in the loop, correct? Because if there's something strategic, the humans are going to take the decision over there, correct? There's stakeholder management, but there is also an important decisions to be taken. So Agentic AI will work as your teammates and your team members. So what you would have is, you would have people, and there would be a renewal agent, correct? There would be a supplier onboarding agent. People would not require to do it, but you need someone else over there, correct, on top in terms of managing supplier relationships. But they'll run, the agent which you have. So now coming to how do we, see this? I think Magnus showed that, intake to outcomes. So there are two paths to the outcome over there, correct? One is your, intake to agentic to your outcome, but that's for your tactical spend. The other, which is still kind of being explored more, is on the strategic side. So think of your category strategy, correct? What you do at the beginning of the year, you'll plan, and then you'll execute on that. It's not going to come from a user intake, but you'll aggregate your demand, and then you'll run, plan for your entire strategy. But both of these will be driven by Agentic AI towards outcomes, and obviously with the source to pay as a foundation. I'll come to that later. This is a bit technical, but I want to just take a minute to explain in terms of how it works, because this is last 1.5 years we have tried multiple different approaches over there on Agentic AI, and what's really working so far. Obviously it's going to change as again technology evolves. So at the left you see the core S2P, correct? So you have the S2P and the data sources, correct? So whether it's your spend data, your contract data. So the source to pay software has, it has a lot of business rules. It has a lot of, organization, let's say delegation policies over there, correct? Chart of accounts and so on. So all of that is within your core S2P. Then you have APIs. APIs in simple term is a technical thing where you ask a software a certain question and it will return the data for that. What has changed now is earlier, and you would hear APIs when you try to integrate with SAP and so on. But the APIs are now getting converted to what is called as MCP server tools. Again, it's technical, but you're going to hear a lot of it over the next few years everywhere. So instead of writing a technical query to the software, you can put a natural language query. Just create this event, with this particular Excel and create a sourcing event for me. it would, do that for you. So now the tools are available, and then you have agents. What's the difference between a tool and an agent? A tool is kind of dumb. An agent has got intelligence. So for example, you'll have a negotiate agent, correct? So you'll give the negotiate agent, depending on how much autonomy you want to give. You said for this category, you decide which parameters are important, in terms of negotiation, and you go ahead or do it. Or you ask for human confirmation. But you have these different agents. These agents fundamentally are nothing but just prompts, but there are different agents doing different tasks. And then these agents orchestrate, but what we found out, I think what Magnus showed, you have an orchestrator on top and your different agents. We tried that, and that was not given optimal results, because it's almost like you have to go to a middleman every time. So what is working well for us is collaborative agents. So it's almost like, people going to other people, correct? So someone in strategic sourcing will go over there to, the contracting person and say, what has been the supply performance for this particular contract? So you have different agents, they collaborate with each other. Now I'll come up with, practical examples in terms of how we do it, correct? You could have negotiate tail spend, you could have agentic sourcing, but with these agents, you can have different agentic flows which you can create. This is the same thing shown as right from a user perspective. So from a user perspective, it starts off with a conversational AI UI, and I'll come to that later. We really think that, again, as AI is a fundamental change in the technology, you cannot live with the old UI. The new UI is going to be conversational, correct? It's difficult to imagine complex stuff, but it will happen. AI will automatically generate a lot of the UI. But you have a conversational UI, then you have the agent, then you have the Zycus source-to-pay, correct? That puts all the guardrails. If you look at the right, we have shown, so right now the agent layer, we have built it so it can talk to external systems also. Because not everything you'd have would be within Zycus. There might be some other supply chain systems outside, some risk systems outside, correct? Or you have your external data, correct? You have your category playbooks, your category intelligence, commodity pricing. All of that could be taken by the agents, to really come up with an outcome. So, and over a period of time, obviously, I think Magnus talked about the ecosystem, correct? Once you have this tool layer, over a period of time, multiple software companies will expose the tool layer. So you can easily talk to SAP, not in technical language, but more in business language. So when we decided earlier, we had 50, 60 small agents, correct? You see it all across, like we have a contract review or a contract summary or contract risk agent and so on. Those are there, but they will be replaced completely by what we call as blockbuster agentic flows, correct? So I think Magnus used that one. So there was blockbuster, and stuck with me because rather than looking at point things which give value, what are those agents which the question we ask internally, will it replace a person's work to an extent of maybe 30%, 40%, 50%? It has to be a significant chunk as an agentic flow. So then we really focus on getting that agentic flow right, from beginning to end. And I'd like to thank our AI Council, many of whom are in the audience. So, with AI, it's very easy to get carried away, correct? It can do a lot of stuff. But with the AI Council, we sit down and we look at areas where AI can have an impact. So we look at, can it have an impact? How pragmatic is it to get it to work, correct? And then we prioritize those. So what came out from the AI Council, the first thing, which was an obvious one, is intake, correct? Where you have AI, which will act as a control tower. It will guide your business users over there through the process. The second one, we call it internally as Anna, which is our autonomous negotiation agent. And this is, for your tactical spend. So like, again, what came from the AI Council is start with things where it's okay to fail in negotiations, correct? If it's something worth $10,000, $20,000, you don't negotiate it completely, it's fine over there. So start with at the bottom and then you move up. And then, so we already have these two products live, and the next one which we are working on over there is, look at agentic sourcing. So you start going up over there towards strategic sourcing. And then obviously, supplier onboarding, correct? It's a mundane task over there which can, be done by agents. But what we are doing is we spent the last 1.5 years really building the entire architecture stack for AI, and we, built intake and then Anna. And now the other agent, blockbuster flows will be able to do much faster because we have the stack already validated with the first, couple of flows. So again, coming to Merlin intake, obviously everyone knows the challenges. You have users, reaching out left, right. People want to do their work. They don't know the procurement policy. So intake, obviously you take any request which comes in. You have your, guidelines and policy. But intake is just the beginning. So intake from there, it would launch into ANA if it is a tail spend over there, correct? So if a user wants to purchase something, you don't want to get procurement in the loop at all, correct? Let the user go ahead and do that, simple 3 bids and a buy and a simple negotiation with a few parameters with the supplier. Or it can be sent to a Merlin agentic sourcing. Obviously, there would be humans involved over there because it is strategic. Or it can automatically guide. So intake does 2 things, correct? Like it is effortless compliance. So what you want to do is you want the user to do what you want them to do, but they should be doing it in an easy way. So it's just guiding them through the entire process. So it helps both in adoption as well as compliance. I'll not go over this in detail because we're going to have a couple of sessions down. We're going to have a detailed live demo with it. But you can see it. It's part of Teams. It is conversational. It is it's not just looking at. Initially, when we had a previous version, it was more like stepwise. Now we have made it very goal and outcome based. Correct. This is what you want. You want people to buy, not to do maverick buying, or you'd want to make sure they follow these policies, and intake will guide and do that, correct? And if you look at it, it is like ChatGPT, correct? You can ask any question. In fact, earlier it was very rigid when we built it because we said we had to make sure it is very deterministic. But AI is improving so that the errors are reducing significantly, so you can let AI free reign over there, but put the guardrails. Obviously, you want to make sure that you get compliance. That's the biggest thing, ensuring that people choose the right supplier over there, correct? Or the right channel, correct? These are the 2 most important things, you'd want to do as procurement, especially for a lot of, the smaller spend. And one of what we've seen is AI gets a lot of value when it has access to data, correct? So if it knows your previous transactions, it knows your previous, contracts and so on. So what we feel is a bolt-on is always difficult because from an outside you just have a few APIs exposed. So we have, let's say, 100 APIs exposed outside, but you have 1,000 APIs inside. So built-in solution, if you have intake over there which is built-in, can deliver significant more value on AI because it has access to 10x the amount of data which an external tool would really have. Now coming to Merlin autonomous negotiation, like I said, we started at the bottom of the spend, and it's tail spend, correct? So tail spend is always too small to manage and too large to ignore. So for tail spend, what we came up with Merlin autonomous negotiation, there'll obviously be different agents over there. Right now it's not showing all the agents. You have source, but you also have, for example, benchmarking of pricing, correct? Both internally based on your past history as well as getting it from outside. And even suppliers are both inside as well as outside AI suggested suppliers. And then it negotiates over there, based on the parameters which you have, and then you do an award. So this we already have multiple customers on. I think a few hundred events have already been run successfully with this particular tool. Now with the new version which we have, initially it was focused only on goods, and now we're looking at services. Obviously services are more difficult because, again, in terms of parameters, negotiation parameters, either you decide or AI can help you decide. If you have a certain category, what are those different parameters which would be important for negotiation? And then it negotiates with the supplier. So the supplier also has a chat Obviously, one of the things someone mentioned, it's very important that how do you get supplier adoption for this over there, correct? So it needs a lot of change management, a lot of push over there to get that. But the supplier would also negotiate over there through a chat, and then you get a completed event over there. So this is again meant for your tail spend, less than $25,000, less than $50,000, what will be your organization's definition of tail spend. Next, which we have, and we are going to have an AI council today where we'll discuss this, is Merlin Agentic Sourcing. And you started building that. You'll see a glimpse of that later. But this is starting off with your category, correct? So you have for your category, you have a challenge. Let's say you want to, benchmark your existing supplier. You want to rationalize your suppliers, correct? You want to, source something new. And based on that, AI will automatically first of all, you'll have a conversational AI. So AI will do everything, ask questions, create an RFP, suggest a strategy in terms of lotting, in terms of, multi-rounds, and it will interact with the system at the back end, correct? The Zycus Source-to-Pay system at the back end to do it. And also you'll have access to all the data across over there, correct? So data, like I said, is fuel for AI, correct? So whether it is contracts data, spend data, external data, and your category benchmarks, your category playbooks, all of that would really be used for this. Now AI is a big bandwagon over there, correct? But what we've seen is AI really gets, when rubber meets the road is when it becomes real, correct? It really gets hardened in production. So we started off with intake 1.0, which was very basic. Then we have 2.0, where we gave a lot of guardrails. From 2.0, and we skipped it between because we were doing 3.0 and we killed it because we said 4.0 looks so promising. 4.0 is pure AI, and I would encourage you to go to the demo pods and try it out. We have stepped away from telling AI what to do and then told it over there that these are the end goals and these are the constraints, and you figure out a path for that. And it works extremely well over there, correct? So right now, intake 4.0 is just going to, multiple customers are in UAT, and it would go live pretty soon. And for Anna, it's similar over there. We again moved to the same, back-end goals-based AI rather than, I would say a deterministic partial AI. And also we added services to it. Now, with AI, it's very important because, again, it's, you're dealing with purchase orders, invoices, organization rules, policies. There has to be a lot of guardrails, otherwise AI can go rogue also. So which is where the S2P foundation really helps, because your whatever is absolutely must have, correct? That these are your workflow policies, or these are the guardrails which you want. The tools will finally interact with the software, and software says you cannot do that, correct? So you cannot, even though it's not a good idea to have 4 people approving, $100 purchase, but you don't have a choice, correct? So you have to go through that. So the suite backbone is very important, so that our current source-to-pay will start kind of moving back, but it becomes the backbone because it has got the organization guardrails, it has got the entire audit trail, and it is the system of record. I'll just, so while we are investing on AI, obviously it's as good as the foundation. So we're just continuously working on enhancing the core S2P also. So AI, we use, like I said, practice what we preach over there, correct? So we are using AI extensively within the organization, but also we want to use it, in increasing our customer satisfaction. So Merlin Help, in fact, support is the first place. Most organizations are using AI because AI can do very well with answering, queries, triaging, escalating, and so on. The second is on implementation also. Earlier, configuring complex workflows, loading data into the software required a lot of consulting time over there, correct? But all of that can be done with AI really fast over there, correct? So these are the ways we are using to really help deliver value to our customer much faster. This is like when Damien mentioned 50%, correct? In engineering, in AI, using AI, we've already gotten 50% productivity. Earlier we were 500 people. Now we are at 250 people. And if you look at the number of features which are going, they've gone up significantly up. So our productivity has increased almost 4x to 5x because, obviously software guys built AI and they're excited to use AI over there. So it has been whatever is happening in software is a great indicator of what is going to happen in other functions over time. But we're able to deliver much, much faster. In fact, with AI now, you give the feature and you give the test cases, it iterates and gets it right in many of those cases over there, correct? So this, obviously, from a customer perspective, you'd see the S2P backbone strengthening faster and also our AI agentic flows being built much faster. I think Magnus shared learnings, and these are some of the learnings we have. I think we have to just experiment with AI. AI, we are just kind of touching the surface. We have internally a marketing team built someone because they could not hire, inside sales fast. So they built something to do AI interviewing. AI interviews a candidate, correct? Obviously, not every candidate accepts that interview request, but you've done almost 10,000 interviews with AI, and it is better than 8 out of 10 recruiters. The second thing is an executive level change management. And I would say you have to kind of push it through also, correct? So we have a monthly review with each department. We have an AI week where people are only doing, researching what's happening on AI and then implementing it in that particular week. And last, I think earlier people always showed something in the monthly thing. We did this AI, that AI. We said, what's the bottom line? What's the impact, correct? Either you have a goal, you've improved your NPS for the customer, or you have an efficiency improvement, correct? Like in engineering, they said, okay, we'll get an efficiency improvement of 50%, and they got that 50% efficiency improvement. To close it off, I'd like to also thank our partners. Obviously, it's not just about innovation, it's about we are working with some of the largest organizations on the planet. So we need support over there in terms of consulting, in terms of digital transformation, in terms of rolling it out across multiple countries. I'll also want to announce Tailwind. So this is unique. We are partnering with IBM to have a solution for tail spend, correct? So you put a tailwind on your tail spend. But Zycus would provide the AI tools. And IBM would provide, because you still need buyer resources in different languages all across the globe. You also need consulting to set it up, and then also an aggregated invoice. So you don't want to fragment by having a large number of suppliers. So we have senior leaders from IBM in the audience. Definitely take time to meet with them. So just concluding remarks. This is where we see Zycus really going over the next few years, correct? Whatever we have currently in terms of software will slowly kind of go to the back, and you start seeing more autonomous systems. So right now you talk about iSource, iContract, and so on. Over time, you'll talk about agentic flows, correct? Whether it is ANA or a contract renewal agent, and a majority of the software will be driven by agentic AI. And I think last time we did a huge UI refresh was 2019, correct? We call it Dewdrops UI. But your standard UI, correct, with forms and buttons and dashboards is going to be history, correct? At Zycus, we're going to change the entire solution over there, and we are a strong believer again on conversational UI, because then the UI doesn't restrict what the AI can do. It is very fluid, correct? So otherwise in a regular software, you have to change the UI if anything changes at the back. But this dynamically changes. So over time, and this we have already proven over there with a couple, so we are sure over time we can do it to all the different process flows within procurement source to pay. That's it. I'll close now. Yeah, thanks everyone.